Welcome, esteemed gentlemen. The quietest storms leave the deepest impact. They say still waters run deep, and no one embodies that more than the Sigma male. Mysterious, self-reliant, and perfectly content on the fringes of society, the Sigma male usually keeps his emotions in check, holding an unshakable calm that even close friends rarely see beneath. But even the most stoic among us have their limits, and when a Sigma reaches his breaking point, the results can be intense, to say the least. Imagine a lone wolf finally baring its teeth after years of keeping its distance, a moment as unexpected as it is intriguing. Studies even suggest that people who lean towards Sigma characteristics often have higher thresholds for stress and tend to bottle emotions rather than explode. But when they do lose it, well, it's a spectacle that won't go unnoticed. It's like seeing Bigfoot dancing in Times Square. You might only get one glimpse, but it'll be unforgettable. In this video, we'll unravel the extraordinary, sometimes dark and often unpredictable things that happen when a Sigma male reaches his breaking point. Hold on tight. You're about to see the calm turn to chaos, and it's not for the faint of heart. Number 1. Internal tsunami of control rebellion. When a Sigma male reaches his limit, an intense internal rebellion brews within him, challenging his carefully maintained self-control. For a Sigma, control isn't just a preference, it's his core. It's what allows him to navigate life independently, undisturbed by the usual pressures others succumb to. But when he's pushed past his threshold, that very control can become a battleground within, turning on itself in an internal tsunami he can't ignore. It starts as a silent clash, a war between his natural calm and a powerful wave of emotions that have finally broken free. He spent years managing his reactions, filtering his thoughts, keeping everything in check. But now, with pressure mounting, he feels his grip weakening. His inner order begins to dissolve, and a chaotic turmoil he's never fully faced takes over. Every emotion he's suppressed, resentment, frustration, anger, surges up, demanding acknowledgement. The Sigma male is forced to confront emotions he's deliberately kept in the background, emotions that now feel like foreign intruders threatening his very identity. This isn't an outward eruption. There's no wild outburst or impulsive reaction. Instead, it's an implosion, a quiet but profound breakdown of his inner structure. His rational mind fights against this rising tide, trying to regain control, to restore his balance. But it's a losing battle. In his mind, it's as if he's watching himself lose grip on the order he's always trusted. And for a Sigma, this experience of inner turmoil can be shattering, because it means facing parts of himself he has deliberately avoided. In the end, this internal rebellion marks a pivotal moment. It may change him, shift his outlook, or even redefine how he approaches his own autonomy. At number 2, silent storm of calculated revenge. When a Sigma male is pushed too far, his response isn't an emotional outburst or an impulsive reaction. Instead, he becomes a silent storm, turning any lingering resentment or frustration into a precise and calculated course of action. For the Sigma, revenge isn't about rage or aggression. It's a way to regain his personal power and sense of balance, a methodical response to whatever or whoever disrupted his inner equilibrium. This response is quiet but incredibly strategic. The Sigma isn't interested in flashy displays or dramatic confrontations. Instead, he carefully observes, assessing the situation with a clear-headed focus that borders on ruthless. He will take his time, considering every angle, patiently identifying the best way to respond in a way that aligns with his principles. Often, this involves subtle but powerful actions that go unnoticed by others until they feel the impact. It might mean withdrawing his support from a project, revealing truths others tried to keep hidden, or using his strengths to undermine a situation from the inside out. By choosing actions with intent rather than emotion, the Sigma's approach often feels unexpected, even unnerving. People realize too late that he's been several steps ahead, setting things in motion quietly but effectively. He leaves no trace of anger, just a sense of restored order, his order. This process is a dismantling, done not for satisfaction or attention, but to regain control over his own environment and eliminate whatever crossed his boundaries. In the end, The Sigma's calculated response is less about getting even and more about reinforcing his autonomy. Once he's achieved his goal, he moves on without fanfare, leaving others to piece together what happened, often long after he's finished. Number 3. Heightened cynicism towards human nature. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, he often enters a phase of intense cynicism toward human nature. It's as though a veil has been lifted, and he sees the motives of others in stark, unfiltered clarity. Where he once might have given people the benefit of the doubt, he now questions every intention, every word, and every gesture, recognizing the self-interest, hypocrisy, or manipulation that can lie beneath the surface. This shift is profound, altering his perspective on relationships, society, and trust itself. He begins to see how frequently people act out of convenience rather than conviction, how easily values are compromised when tested, and how often social bonds are built on transactional rather than genuine foundations. This awareness brings an unavoidable sense of disillusionment. He realizes that many interactions he once saw as sincere were colored by hidden agendas or shallow motives, and he finds himself increasingly detached from others as a result. As he pulls back emotionally, he learns to prioritize his own self-interest, not out of selfishness, but out of a newfound understanding of survival. He's less likely to invest deeply in relationships, choosing instead to maintain a careful distance, keeping his focus on goals that don't rely on the loyalty or integrity of others. His world becomes one where he leans on himself first, cultivating a mindset that values his own growth and autonomy over entanglements that could drain his energy. This heightened cynicism isn't bitterness, it's realism. He's seen the cracks in human nature up close, and he's adjusted accordingly. From this point on, his trust is reserved, his boundaries are firm, and his connections are fewer, but deeper and more deliberate. At number 4, takes on an ice-cold persona. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, his entire demeanor can shift, transforming him into a figure of icy detachment. Those who once felt close to him may suddenly find themselves on the outside, facing a wall of unwavering rationality. It's a change so drastic that it can leave even close friends or partners feeling like they're dealing with a stranger, someone who has shed any trace of warmth and empathy and replaced it with an unbreakable, almost robotic exterior. This shift isn't random, it's a deliberate choice, a way of protecting himself from further disappointment or betrayal. A Sigma typically gives people limited access to his inner world, but once he's been pushed too far, even that limited access is revoked. Every interaction becomes measured, every response controlled, and every boundary fortified. He no longer entertains emotional appeals or allows himself to be influenced by sentiment. Logic and reason become his armor, shielding him from anyone who might try to sway him or pierce his defenses. In this state, he appears unaffected, indifferent, and sometimes unapproachable. He won't argue or justify his stance. He simply won't engage on an emotional level. Others may sense the coldness and wonder where his warmth has gone, but he offers no explanation, no hint of vulnerability. For the Sigma, this ice-cold persona is a necessary shield, a means to separate himself from emotional entanglements that he now views as distractions or threats to his stability. This level of detachment is powerful yet isolating. While it allows him to reclaim his peace and sense of control, it also means that he becomes harder to reach, his walls nearly impenetrable. Those who once enjoyed his companionship must now navigate the new distance he's set, realizing that his emotional availability is a privilege he no longer extends. For the Sigma, this coldness isn't just a phase, it's a commitment to protect himself, making him more self-contained and, paradoxically, more untouchable than ever. Number 5. Refusal to justify himself anymore. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, one of the most noticeable shifts is his absolute refusal to justify himself to anyone. Where he might once have tried to explain his choices or clarify his motives, he now abandons any need for approval or validation. He's reached a point of self-assurance that makes outside opinions irrelevant, even burdensome. His life, values, and perspective become entirely his own, and he's no longer interested in whether others understand or agree with them. This shift is both liberating and isolating. Without the pressure to conform or explain, he gains a profound sense of freedom, an untouchable aura that comes from being unapologetically himself. He acts according to his principles, guided by his own values and objectives, and he doesn't bother with the mental drain of bringing others along with him. Friends, family, colleagues, or partners who once tried to influence him find that their words and opinions seem to slide right off. He listens less, and he's less inclined to engage in debates or discussions that challenge his path. However, this dismissal of external judgment often alienates those around him. People may interpret his silence as arrogance or indifference, feeling as though he's closed off from them in a new, unreachable way. While he sees this shift as an embrace of his true self, others may struggle with his lack of compromise or care for their viewpoints. To them, it seems like he's built a wall of self-containment, and it's true, he has, but for him, it's a wall that preserves his peace and autonomy. In this state, the Sigma isn't rude or hostile, he's simply done adjusting himself for others. This refusal to justify or explain is more than an attitude. It's a declaration that he's enough as he is, and he no longer feels obligated to prove it. Number 6. Withdraws to regroup, but comes back stronger. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, his first instinct is to withdraw into solitude. But this isn't a simple retreat. It's an intense regrouping phase where he doesn't just rest or hide. He dissects everything in his life with razor-sharp scrutiny. He's not someone who seeks out sympathy or validation from others. He values his independence too much. So instead of reaching outward, he turns inward, seeking the clarity he needs in isolation. This period of solitude becomes a space for profound re-evaluation, where he analyzes his actions, relationships, and ambitions down to their roots. In this stage, he's hard at work redefining what he wants and cutting away what no longer serves him. He'll question his own motives, confront any overlooked flaws, and put his own principles under the microscope. If there were cracks in his foundation, he'll shore them up. If there were weaknesses he'd ignored, he'll address them with renewed determination. It's a brutally honest process that requires resilience and discipline. He's breaking down to build himself back up, not seeking comfort, but understanding. When he finally emerges from this isolation, he returns stronger, carrying a fortified sense of self and a sharper awareness of his boundaries and goals. The experiences that pushed him to withdraw don't weigh him down. Instead, they fuel a new, impenetrable resolve. He's like tempered steel, more resilient, more self-assured, and even less influenced by the outside world. Those around him will notice the shift, sensing a quiet power in his presence that wasn't there before. This process isn't about healing or bouncing back. It's about transformation, and once complete, the Sigma is back on he's gone through it. He emerges as someone who has recalibrated his entire existence. The Sigma male no longer feels the need to prove himself or fit into predefined molds. His perspective has shifted, and his priorities are clear. His mission, his purpose, and his own peace of mind are paramount. This phase of isolation doesn't just restore him, it sharpens him, leaving him ready to face the world with a new sense of clarity and purpose. When he re-engages with life after this period, he's no longer the same. The external pressures that once weighed on him don't have the same hold. His boundaries are impenetrable, his focus laser-sharp, and his emotional equilibrium unshakable. Those who may have once misunderstood his quiet demeanor now recognize the quiet storm within. His new, fortified self is impossible to ignore. What others fail to see is that this period of solitude was the ultimate act of self-mastery. It wasn't about withdrawing from the world, it was about mastering it on his own terms. Number 7, the all-or-nothing decision-making. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, his typically measured approach to life can turn into an all-or-nothing mindset. Where he would usually weigh options carefully, considering all angles, he now shifts into a mode of decisive, often drastic action. For the Sigma, this isn't impulsive. It's a response to realizing that his limits have been reached, and that incremental change is no longer enough to achieve the freedom or clarity he seeks. He knows it's time for a bold move, and he's ready to make it. In this state, he's willing to burn bridges, leave behind what no longer serves him, and make life-altering decisions without hesitation. The middle ground is no longer an option. He'll either fully commit or completely detach. This could mean quitting a job he's outgrown, cutting ties with people who drain him, or uprooting his life to move somewhere completely new. These are decisions that might seem extreme from the outside, but to him, they're the only way forward. The Sigma's focus shifts entirely to his own needs and desires, disregarding the comfort zones or expectations of others. Once he's made up his mind, he doesn't look back. Regret or second-guessing doesn't enter the picture because he's already thought it through. For him, these all-or-nothing choices are a means of reclaiming control, shedding what holds him back, and creating space for a future that aligns with his vision. Others may see this as reckless or unforgiving, but for the Sigma, it's a necessary step to avoid living half-heartedly. This level of commitment often leaves a powerful impact, marking a clear line between his old life and his new one. It's a transformation that feels absolute, a commitment to authenticity that he'll hold on to fiercely as he steps into a future that's fully his own. Number 8. Switching from passive to provocative. When a Sigma male hits his breaking point, his usual quiet and observant demeanor can give way to a more assertive, even provocative side. Normally one to avoid unnecessary confrontation, he becomes uncharacteristically bold, expressing opinions and challenging the actions of others with a directness that can take everyone by surprise. This shift is not driven by anger, but by a refusal to tolerate what he sees as hypocrisy, shallow thinking, or unjust behavior any longer. In this state, the Sigma male starts calling things out as he sees them, unfiltered and unapologetic. If someone's behavior doesn't align with their words, he'll say so openly. If he spots flaws in a system or notices that people around him are blindly following the status quo, he's likely to disrupt it, pointing out truths that others may prefer to ignore. This isn't done for drama or attention. It's a shift born from his commitment to authenticity and integrity. He's simply unwilling to accept mediocrity or falseness around him. This new edge is sharp and unyielding, and people around him can't help but take notice. He's gone from being the quiet observer to the unexpected challenger, someone who doesn't just go along to get along, but instead questions and, if necessary, stands against the crowd. The Sigma's confidence in his views means he no longer hides behind politeness or remains neutral for the sake of peace. His courage in speaking out can inspire others to question things as well, yet it also risks alienating those who are uncomfortable with his newfound candor. This provocative phase is ultimately about shedding any remnants of passivity, allowing the Sigma to express a bolder, more daring side that demands respect. It marks a pivotal shift in his character. He becomes a force that actively influences his environment rather than passively observing it. Number 9. Developing an inevitable endgame approach. When a Sigma male reaches his breaking point, he often shifts from dealing with immediate concerns to an unshakable focus on his endgame. His patience for short-term thinking or fleeting distractions evaporates, replaced by an intense commitment to a larger long-term vision. At this stage, everything becomes a stepping stone toward that goal. He no longer entertains quick fixes or temporary pleasures. Instead, every action, decision, and relationship is assessed through the lens of how it contributes to his ultimate objective. This shift can make him appear ruthless as he prioritizes his long-term success over everything else. Personal relationships, social expectations, and even immediate desires take a back seat to his vision. What once might have been an occasional indulgence or a moment of care is now seen as irrelevant or counterproductive. The Sigma's singular focus on his endgame leaves little room for the trivialities of day-to-day life, and the sacrifices he makes in the process can make him seem colder or more distant to others. While this laser-like focus can lead to impressive accomplishments, successes that are carefully planned and executed, it also drives him further into isolation. The Sigma begins to view the world through the lens of strategy, considering only those people and opportunities that align with his broader purpose. He becomes less available emotionally, more calculated in his interactions, and sometimes dismissive of things or people that could derail his progress. In this state, the Sigma becomes almost impervious to external distractions. His journey is no longer about the present moment or social validation. It's about achieving something bigger than himself, and he's willing to endure whatever it takes to reach that destination. To those around him, his relentless pursuit of his endgame can feel like an unbridgeable gap. But for the Sigma, it's a necessary commitment to his future, one that's clear in his mind and unavoidable in his actions. Number 10. Embracing total emotional apathy. When a Sigma male reaches the final stage of losing it, he may enter a state of complete emotional apathy. This is the point where he no longer cares about the opinions of others, societal expectations, or even relationships that once held meaning. The emotional investment he once made in the world around him evaporates, leaving behind an unshakable detachment. In this state, everything that once triggered his empathy or engagement feels distant and irrelevant. This apathy isn't born from a place of bitterness or hatred. Rather, it's a form of self-preservation. The Sigma male, having endured enough emotional turmoil or disillusionment, decides that caring, whether it's about pleasing others or holding on to past connections, is a vulnerability he can no longer afford. People and circumstances no longer have the power to disturb his peace or sway his decisions. What once might have been a consideration in his choices, friendship, loyalty, or emotional connection, is now just noise to him. He remains unfazed by drama, conflict, or criticism. This emotional detachment serves as armor. It protects him from the chaos of the world and allows him to operate with razor-sharp clarity and focus. He becomes impervious to manipulation, guilt-tripping, or any form of emotional influence. Nothing can get under his skin, and as a result he develops an intense resilience. This is not a weakness. It's a profound strength that comes from the complete disarming of emotional vulnerability. By no longer engaging emotionally with the world, the Sigma male has reached a place where nothing can truly harm him. While this stage can make him seem cold or even unreachable, it also marks a peak in his emotional evolution. He has shed the layers of external influence and has become entirely self-reliant, navigating life on his own terms. His emotional apathy is a shield that grants him the freedom to pursue his goals and desires without being swayed by the needs or expectations of others, making him stronger, quieter, and more resilient than ever before. In the end, when a Sigma male loses it, it's not a moment of reckless chaos. It's a metamorphosis, a complete recalibration of who he is and how he interacts with the world. His journey through this transformation is marked by profound self-realization, a rejection of societal norms, and a brutal, unwavering focus on his personal goals. The chaos he experiences internally is not a breakdown. It's the shedding of old skin, the removal of emotional excess, and the forging of a new, more powerful version of himself. From embracing emotional detachment to prioritizing his long-term vision, the Sigma male's ability to regroup, recalibrate, and come back stronger is what sets him apart. He moves forward not with the intention of appeasing anyone, but to create a life that's purely his own. Those who understand this process will see the strength in his transformation, the quiet power that emerges from a man who has learned to trust only himself. By the time he emerges from this intense phase, the Sigma male is no longer the man he was before. His independence is untouchable, his self-reliance unshakable, and his commitment to his own path more resolute than ever. The world may have tested him, but in the end, it's only made him stronger. If you've made it this far, it's clear you've gained a deeper understanding of what happens when a Sigma male loses it. But this is just the beginning. There's so much more to uncover about the Sigma mindset, the power of self-reliance, and how to navigate life on your own terms. If you want to keep exploring topics that dive into the complexities of human nature, strength, and independence, make sure to hit that subscribe button. By subscribing, you'll get access to content that challenges conventional thinking and provides insights that can transform the way you approach life. Don't miss out. Join a community of people who are ready to think, grow, and evolve. Stay tuned for more, and remember, this journey is just getting started.